Hello, this is Participation Coaching Podcast with junior golf coach Neil Plimmer.
Within the industry, there's not a lot of support for coaches who want to be great coaches of children. There's not much training that goes on, there's not much support. How do guys get good at it? They probably just spend their time researching themselves. Whereas if you can come into a group of like-minded coaches, share ideas, share thoughts, I don't think we've quite got it right yet. We'll continue to look at different ways.
Welcome to the very first episode of the Participation Coaching Podcast with Neil Plimmer. Neil is a junior golf coach, an expert junior golf coach based in the UK. He's the founder of Jolf, which is a junior golf school, and Junior Golf Alliance, which we'll talk about in that podcast. We cover many different things, including how he started playing golf, how he started coaching, what shaped him, but we also dig into the practical stuff, how coaches can make more money coaching children, the differences between performance and participation coaching, and what Neil does during his very first hour with a complete beginner. It's a very interesting process. The value of play, why watching Neil coach you won't see many high fives during the sessions, and many others. I love speaking to Neil and always learn a ton during my conversations with him. Hopefully you will learn a thing or two also. So please enjoy listening to the interview. Let me know what you think. Comment on the website, send me an email. Let me know if I should carry on doing these podcasts. What was good, what wasn't. Enough of the talking, let's dig into the interview with Neil Plimmer. Just for the introduction, so what would you say you do these days? I know it's a bit of a transition time, but how would you say, what's your job title and what's your main focus these days?
So coach of children, and then obviously director of Junior Golf Alliance, Jolf Limited. And that's probably about it really. Okay,
so during the week, do you mainly coach, or is it half and half business and coaching? Or
Yeah, so going forwards it'll be half and half. It'll be coaching in schools, coaching at weekends, coaching out on our program, as well as obviously then doing all the bits and pieces to be able to maintain that, as well as the business side of Junior Golf Alliance as well, which is still in its sort of infancy.
And how long have you been coaching and doing that?
Specific to children?
Yeah, or just coaching in general. When did you?
So coaching in general. So I've been qualified for 18 years, and for a long proportion of that time, maybe half that time, I was a club pro, doing everything: members, repairs, buggies, membership, competitions, and some teaching. And then I wanted to coach more, so I sort of extrapolated myself out of the things that I didn't want to do and did more of what I wanted to do. So coached full time for the last 9 years, 8-9 years, and then over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been predominantly coaching children, or certainly working towards. So this change now is that sort of, if you like, it's I wouldn't say the last step, but the next step in being able to coach children full time.
And how did you start playing golf? That's I'm always interested to hear.
14 years old. Myself and my pals, we just went to the local pitch and putt. So Saturday afternoons would be there was a 9-hole par 3 course with a driving range and a snooker room. And then our mums and dads just used to drop us off. We'd play par 3, we'd play driving range, we'd play snooker, and we'd just spend 3 or 4 hours doing that. And it wasn't far away from the local golf club, so when I'd done it for a little while, my dad says, "Do you want to join?" Which we did. Had an interview. Had to put my school jacket on, go for an interview in front of the committee. My name had to be put up on the board for a few weeks to hopefully that people wouldn't blackball me. And then I joined, and then that was it really. I mean, I did nothing but play golf then. I was one of the normal golf pros. I don't know the actual history, but I can only make assumption that the majority of golf pros played golf and then would play 36 holes a day, 7 days a week. And the only thing that got in the way was school.
Did you try to play competitively as a pro, or
A little bit. You know,
okay?
I played some county golf, and yeah, when I turned pro, I used to play a few tournaments. I think it was sort of expected of you, wasn't it? You know, you'd have the tour bag, you'd have your name on it. You'd go around and I suppose what was this, 18, 20 years ago, I just did the thing that everyone else was doing. You just follow the crowd, really. You play local area tournaments, you play local programs, never to any success. You know, looking back, I suppose the reason why I wanted to do other things is because I wasn't very good at it.
That's a good reason, actually.
Yeah, I realised soon on. I mean, I had too many drives back from tournaments thinking, why am I doing this to myself? A day off work, a day off earning, scoring loads, just thinking this is just dreadful.
What about coaching? Were you coached as a kid, or?
Yeah, so I had quite a lot of coaching. I was sort of quite fortunate. My sort of dad, we found a guy who we worked with and sort of had probably quite traditional lessons, but they had an impact on me because I connected with him, and I used to go and caddy for him, and I used to spend a lot of time at the centre he coached at. So it was an extremely positive relationship. I think looking back and looking at the depth and quality of the coaching, it was what it was. It was quite traditional. It was quite driving range. We were using video, which I suppose back then was, you know, he'd put his VHS tape in the video and I'd take it home with me, and I've still got the tapes. Can't play them because I haven't got a VHS video, but I've still got them. And then about 16, 17, we met a guy and I spent quite a lot of time with him. And again, I think he had a huge impact on me, probably more personally than he did with my golf game. I would never say either of them held my golf game back, but I'm not sure whether it maybe accelerated. But again, between myself and my parents, you just don't know. You don't know what's good. You don't know what's bad. You don't know what the right thing to do is. And these were giving advice. It was great advice. So, and then that was the second guy. And then after that, nothing really, because I knew really I wasn't very good. You know, I sort of probably better at the sort of being the golf pro than being the playing pro. So I made a decision early on that I was never going to be a golfer, really.
So one of the things that I'm trying to do with the project is sort of define the difference between performance coaching and participation coaching. What would that be for you?
So coming back to that, when I was coaching, I was fortunate that I ended up I was county coach for the ladies. I did some regional coaching. You know, being at a place, and I suppose developing one's reputation and one's style, people find you. So I suppose for a while I was in that performance environment, if you like. You know, guys that were playing to a good level, and guys and girls playing to a good level. You know, with the county, we went to national finals twice. Never really necessarily working on the game technically, but certainly helping them from a whole player perspective. But it was when I was doing some regional coaching that I realised that the young people that were coming to see us were coming with such a fixed mindset, wanting to change. So that's why I then wanted to go back and sort of say, well, what experience have these young people had that have caused them to have fixed mindsets? And, you know, it's probably that first touch experience. So if you look at it, what's the difference between performance coaching and participation coaching? Well, I'd say nothing. It's just the skill level and it's just the experience. And I wonder whether within the sport we've got this twin tracks that never the sort of twain shall meet. But I just wonder whether it sort of goes like that. And the thing that links it is we're all playing the same game. We've just got different experiences and we've just got different skill levels. Because what we've realised is that you can have a dad playing off scratch and a 4-year-old who's never played before, and they'll play golf together. And so the link, I don't know, the term that I use, the link between performance and participation, it's still play. And play is the purest form. It's just that the constraints around the performance game and the participation game might be different, and the skills on show are different. So I'm thinking about it as we talk. I don't think there's a difference apart from one's experience and one's skill.
That makes sense, actually. So what do you think is the main role of a coach in both scenarios?
Well, the first thing is to be able to connect with that person. And it might be the first, second and third thing. Connect with that person. Provide appropriate opportunities, whether that be playing opportunities, learning opportunities, competition opportunities. For I think where we are now with what we try and do, it's looking at, are they having appropriate playing opportunities, appropriate learning opportunities, and when I say appropriate, also engaging, absorbing, and also competition experiences. So it's got to be connecting with that person, and from our perspective with the children, connecting with the family that's around them as well. You know, I think as you saw when you came, well, I hope you saw, we have an excellent relationship and connection with all of the people that turn up. All different, and different because we connect with them in different ways. Because you look at the stories of the good players, they talk about the relationships they've had, not necessarily the work that they've done. And is it a coincidence that people like Rory McIlroy and those Jordan Spieth, those at the top of the tree, they've got long-term, pretty deep relationships with the people that are around them, not just the coaches. And I can only think that's the same in other sports as well.
I remember reading an article about great teachers and what makes a good teacher, and like all the research and all these studies that were done. It's all about like how the teachers make the students feel, and like if you remember a good teacher from your childhood, it's not because what they taught you. It's, as you said, like how you, like what was your connection with that teacher really?
Yeah. And I think sometimes, when we differentiate between performance and participation, it tends to be never the twain shall meet. They're two ends of the continuum. Whereas I just wonder whether we're moving backwards and forwards between both ends of the continuum all the while. And should it be us that drive it as coaches? Maybe. But also we want to surely arm the people that we spend time with the understanding so they can move around that continuum themselves. We got one lad at the moment. He's 9 years old. He's played some competitions at the club that he's based at, so he's gone out and played 18 holes. And I said to Dad the other day, normally the next step would be for him to regularly play 18 holes, but he's not ready. And he's still 9, and he's got school, and he's got football, and he's got this, and he's got that, and the other. And so I said to him, it's surely giving him that taste. And then saying, do you want to do some more, or do you want to do 3 holes, or do you just want to go and chip and putt, and giving him lots of different options, and then allowing him as he gets older, or coaching him to be able to make those choices for himself. So if he wants to get good, it's going to be on his terms, his decision, and his choice, not us.
So maybe could you tell me about the day you decided to focus on juniors? Was it like a particular event that triggered it, maybe?
Ballet.
Really?
Yeah. So my daughter was, I think, 3, and she signed up. She wanted to do dance. We signed her up for ballet. She'd never done it before, and we paid out £110 for the term, as well as buying her all the kit. And not because we were sort of that way inclined, but because that was what was expected when you turn up for ballet, and she'd never done it before. And at the time, I was still charging £5 per hour for children's coaching. Just turn up when you like. And I just thought, this can't be right. I thought I was doing a reasonable job. I saw the ballet, and that was okay. And I thought, well, if we're going to charge more, we better make sure we do a better job. And it was that moment. It was. I can go back because I can remember at that time we were doing a lot of schools work. We were getting some funding. We were doing okay, and yet we still weren't recruiting or retaining as many children as we want to. One week we'd have 2 turn up, and the next week we'd have 20. It wasn't a business. It wasn't something we could sustain. So it was at that point I don't remember making a change. But I look back and I think that was the point where I thought, well, I better do it better. We better look at what's appropriate. And it was then I sort of looked at, well, what's out there. England Golf were pushing, an LTAD framework, and so if you don't know anything, you start reading that and you think, wow, this is really good stuff. And at the same time, TPI were out there with their junior track, and so I went and did TPI level 1, TPI level 2. I went to Sweden and did it, and then that was it really. And then I was sort of on the path of coaching children.
Okay, so I guess that brings us to Jolf. So that is that when it started, and if you could just tell me like what it is in your words in a way.
So then I left one of the places I was at, and I've been there for a long time. So I was then coaching full time, based in a new facility, and between myself and my colleague Jonathan, we were asked to write a program. So, the reason why we'd sort of come in was to do something different. The guys were running a program there; they'd been doing it for a while. It had sort of run its course, and they wanted to do something new. So we then sat down. We were coaching a lot together, which again I'd not done much of before. So between myself, Jonathan, and another coach, we were doing a lot of sessions together. Some of it roll up and ad hoc, some of it camps. I mean, we did camps, and they were amazing, because up until then I'd pretty much coached on my own. I think like a lot of coaches do. And then Jonathan and I put our heads together. I'd come at it from one angle, and he came at it from an ex-primary school teacher, education, good understanding, and we put the framework together of Jolf. So that was in the March, April, May. We then launched it in September, where we're based at, and then in the following, this September 2011, and then in the following, over the winter, there's a lot of guys, I think through social media, they wanted to get involved, and so it just seemed a natural progression that we would share the stuff that we got. So it then came. We had a coaching framework, we had collateral, the caps, the journals. We then put together a community, an online learning program. It was, looking back, it was the sort of start of what we've done now with the Junior Golf Alliance. But with the Junior Golf Alliance, it's much more structured. It's got a lot more. It's a lot more solid. I think between Jonathan and I, we both admit we were reasonable coaches, reasonable working face to face. But as far as the business side of it was concerned, we were quite naive looking back then. And plus, we just wanted to share the good stuff that we knew.
How many venues was Jolf?
So it started at 2. And I think at its peak we got up to about 18 clubs, about 22 coaches, and then it sort of petered down a little bit now. I mean, we're not spending too much time at the moment sort of marketing Jolf as a program or a product. Our time is in, again, earlier this year we realised that whatever program or product you deliver, and there's a lot out there, there's a lot of guys do their own, there's a lot of different ones. It's not all about the product, it's definitely about the experiences that coaches deliver and the experiences coaches set up, which is why we want to go down the angle of supporting, training, educating coaches and people that are interested in working with children. Not necessarily golf coaches. We know there's a lot of good sports coaches, teachers, dads who are a fantastic job. So Jolf's been a big part of my life for the last 4 or 5 years, and it will continue to be in sort of its essence. It might not just be strapped as Jolf, it might be something else as we go forward. But that's the exciting part, really. We've looked at how can we make an impact within the business, how can we grow our business, and sometimes it might be, you might not have to concentrate on what you believe, it's other stuff. Not what I believe. The branding, we might have to change that a little bit.
As an example, what was the offer for the children, for example, at Cuckfield, or like one of your, let's say, signature Jolf venues?
Well, the offer was a 10-week course. It was organised. It was a pretty simple sell. So when people come through the door and haven't done it before, this is it. We've got 2 offers. Number 1, you can come to our weekly coaching. Number 2, we've got camps, so you can come to holiday camps. Sign up and pay. And as far as coming to a weekly session, the best thing we used to do is we still do, is we offer a free taster within one of our groups, if we have space. I mean, the last 12 months we've not had any space where we've been based, so it's been a struggle to grow. we've retained everybody, but we can't recruit and we can't grow because we've been full. But when we have had spaces, you get a child come, you let them play, you set up an environment which they can play, they can socialise with others, they always get on. We then speak to the parents. Seldom do they not sign up.
It was like over 100 kids at Cockfield, I remember well.
Yeah, so weekly we see 105 children across, it was 11 classes.
And then the school coaching on top of that.
And school coaching on top of that. So we're into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got eight school sessions a week.
Is it? I know the answer, but just so that you can explain it maybe clearer than I can. So the 10-week course, is it like are the groups based on age, ability, or do you have different offers for different ages or abilities, or is it all sort of similar?
We structure it around age. So we have a Key Stage 1, which is sort of school years over here, which is 4 to 7. We have Key Stage 2, which is 7 to 11, and then we have Key Stage 3, which is 11 plus. And parents know exactly where they are then. And what tends to happen is we use those ages as a guide. So for parents that don't know and new parents, we use it as a guide. And then when new children come into the groups, we look at, will that child get on with the other children, and will these children get on with us? And so we can work around it. So we use age as a guide, but then when we get the groups and when we're starting to form the groups, it's whether children will get on with others and what the children will bring to the class. So we've got some definite, on Saturday afternoons, we have a definite Key Stage 3 group where most of the children are 11 plus. The conversation is different, the way they interact with children is different. We wouldn't really put a 6-7-year-old in that class. And then the class before is a Key Stage 1 class. Those children are 4 and 5. I think the oldest child in that class is 6, 5.5, 6. Now, the session we offer might be similar, as in the theme, but the way they interact with it, the way they interact with each other, the way we interact with them will always be different. So we use age as a guide. And as far as ability is concerned, we would mix abilities within sessions.
And when they do the 10-week course, they can sign up to another one?
Yeah. I mean, our structure is we would start selling the next term at week 7. So week 7, we press the button, and then we say to people, your place is confirmed until week 9. After week 9, if you so decide not to stay, we will then offer your place, the places to our waiting list or to the general public. So again, we have a pretty strict, we know what we're going to sell and when we're going to sell it within that sort of 10 weeks. We have 3 10-week courses per year.
So what's the business like? So how much do you charge per 10 week?
So we charge £99 per child per term, which is comparable to the competition. And when we say competition, it's not other golf courses, it's other activities, whether that be swimming, whether not maybe football and the club scenario, because obviously they're different structures. But if you look at swimming, if you look at drama, if you look at singing, all the other things children can do, we feel that the cost is comparable. But not only that, we also feel we give great value for the money that we charge it. With the experience, with the offer, with the communication outside of the sessions, we don't just turn up and deliver an hour session a week. We communicate outside of it, we speak to parents, we involve them in other things as well.
It's something that really caught my eye when I was watching you, both during the training course that I attended a few years back and when I visited you recently, was that you seem, or you are, extremely calm during the sessions, and like it clearly affects the kids as well in a good way. Is it something that you've always done, or is it something you had to learn, or I'm just curious?
No, not something I've always done. There is no doubt that I think at the beginning, that's a good question actually, at the beginning of my sort of coaching journey, I would be the court jester. I would be the one high-fiving, whooping them up into some sort of frenzy, because I wanted them to have fun. So desperate for them to have fun. You know, what does fun look like? What does fun sound like? What does a great learning environment and an engaging environment? I've got video after video of children being absorbed in stuff, and they're just there, mostly tongue out, focused on what they're doing. And then when I've been into schools, you see good teachers, and those teachers where they've got the children and they've got good relationships with them, they're not hooping and hollering and high-fiving, because you can't sustain that behaviour. It's knackering. And, you know, we want the children to be absorbed and engaged. I mean, that's pretty much it. Be absorbed and engaged in the activities that they're setting up, that we've set up, that they're setting up, that they're doing. They don't need me to be a cheerleader from the sidelines. You know, I'm really conscious that I go and have really personal conversations with each of the children. Because again, you know, you get them together as a group. I question sometimes the value of doing that, talking to a group. Because even with some of our ladies, adult coaching, you speak to a group, and what you're saying and what you're telling and the discussion you're having might only be appropriate for half of them. And it's the same with children, but I'd much rather go and speak to them all individually. How are you getting on? What's happening? Can you tell me? Can you explain? Can you describe? And they're the really nice conversations. And they only need to be quiet. You know, it doesn't need to be. Because I suppose, you know, we want to model the behaviour that we sort of expect and want from them, because golf can be a dangerous game within a group.
Do you do individual coaching with juniors?
Occasionally. I mean, some can't always make our group sessions. Some parents feel it's appropriate. Tends to be on the golf course, if we do. So let's say within a group coaching, we can't get on the golf course. If we do individual stuff, we tend to get on the golf course because it's easier to do. Gave a session yesterday afternoon to a lad who's 6, but it's my opportunity to spend a lot of time talking to dad or mum. You know, I make no apologies to the dad yesterday, and sort of said, you know, I think Henry's enjoying himself. I can see he's getting better. Are you happy with what he's doing? Oh yeah, really happy. I feel like I'm coaching more than I'm coaching him. He's like, yep, absolutely. Love what we're doing. You're giving us so many ideas and so many things that we can go and do, so we can enjoy playing golf together.
So you mentioned teachers. Is there anything, like any specific influences, whether that's people or resources that, well, let's say, that things that influenced how you approach coaching children?
I think, well, number one definitely is being able to work with directly Jonathan, who myself and Jonathan put together Jolf, you know, working alongside, delivering workshops together. I mean, that's been a huge influence. Going into different schools and speaking to different teachers and seeing how they teach, having the opportunity to talk in front of people, you know, so having to put across what you do and how you do it, and giving them the opportunity to critique and criticise and argue and discuss. And I think also doing it wrong, constantly delivering sessions where you just think, oh, you know, the children that wasn't great, they weren't absorbed, they weren't engaged. I've got a class this afternoon, my Monday afternoon class it's a really tricky one. It's in a hall, it's a reasonable size, it's so loud. So as soon as they start chatting, it's so loud, they come in, and you could say they're really difficult children. They're not. It's just a really challenging to set up games and activities in a session where I'm going to hook them in. And so now, whereas before it'd be going to those sessions with dread, now it's a case of really excited to go every single week because can I hook them in? Can I engage them? And most often than not, I wouldn't say failing, but not doing a brilliant job, but just doing my best. So definitely people along the way. I don't think I can always pick up people along the way. Opportunities to share have been amazing, and constantly delivering sessions that aren't great. Talking to the children, you know, how was that for you today? Did it go well? What could I have done better? Asking the children that, and they're always pretty honest with it. Speaking to parents, and I was being a parent myself. Going to sessions with my children and watching them, and just sort of, how good is it? How engaged are they? Do they enjoy it? What would I do better? All experience. And you know what? Probably at the end of the day, just being consumed by what I do, just loving what I do. It's not a job. It just consumes you, doesn't it?
So I think we can transition quite nicely into the Junior Golf Alliance. So this is something you've set up to help coaches be better junior coaches, right? So can you say a few words about the JGA and how it started? Well, I guess you already have a little bit, but
so I was fortunate. I was asked to go to the PGA of America Youth and Family Golf Summit in January, where we spoke about golf and had the opportunity to share, not long, but share what we do and how we do it. And it was received really well. Not only that, we were also able to sit in the audience and 2 days of conference of youth and family golf, which was amazing. The speakers, the experiences, the networking. It was alongside the golf show as well. And what we realised was, coming back from that, is that everybody's got a resource, everyone's got a coaching program. And not only that, all of us as coaches, we've got an ego. And what we realised, that if we want to make an impact with golf and grow it as a business, it's going to mean that the coaches have to sort of drop their ego and use someone else's program. And we didn't feel it was probably going to have the impact and the business that we wanted to make. So I said to the guys, myself and the 3 other directors, I said, we're going to have to drop our ego first, and maybe it's not about golf, and maybe it's about training. So we looked at, how can we, I suppose, rebrand or rejig it, and we came up with the Junior Golf Alliance. So the Junior Golf Alliance has a sole focus of supporting, educating, training, being there for coaches of children, which within the industry, there's not a lot of support for coaches who want to be great coaches of children. There's not much training that goes on. There's not much support. How do guys get good at it? They probably just spend their time researching themselves. Whereas if you can come into a group of like-minded coaches, share ideas, share thoughts, I don't think we've quite got it right yet. But we'll continue to look at different ways.
So it launched a few weeks ago, and so you have 4 courses available now, e-learning courses.
Yes, so we've got an initial coaching golf to children course, which covers 7 areas: the reflective coach, children, parents, playing on the golf course, games-based approach, safeguarding, and the business side of it. So it's sort of an introduction to. And then there's 5 subsequent courses that will all be online by the end of this month. That coaches can then go into a bit more detail. I think what we've realised is that all coaches, or the majority of coaches, they're after stuff. We want stuff. We want games. We want activities. We want things that we can use now. So it's a balance of us giving coaches what they want, and then also giving them probably what they need as well, which is the underpinning understanding of, say, said games-based approach. Because if you've got an underpinning understanding of how to set up and deliver a games-based approach to coaching, you probably don't need people to give you ideas on what games to play. That's been one of the learnings for us over the last 2 or 3 weeks, balancing off what people want and what people need, because we don't always know what we need.
And the big part is the community, isn't it? Like for me, I'm working in Poland. There's not many coaches around here, and I'm working on my own at the club. And like the Facebook group of the members, like it, even if maybe I should be more active in that group, but even just looking at what people do every day and every week, and people are coaching children, they're excited about it, and just knowing you're part of the group, that's amazing, and I think it's a huge part of the idea.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're the second person in the last week to say that actually the Facebook page, the interaction, is a big part of it. And I suppose it's just connecting people together, because as you said, coaching can be it's a lonely existence. You're on your own. You've got this sort of idea of what you want to do, but you might not be making any money out of it. You might not be making the impact. It's a balance. And what we want to be able to, I suppose what we want to be able to do is that say to people, we can do better. We can earn some money from you, do it. You can do it full time. Because up until now, probably within the industry, it's always been something that you just do ad hoc. You don't necessarily spend any time doing it, and so then you don't earn any money doing it, and so then it becomes the least experienced coaches doing it, and that cycle just perpetuates.
It made it quite easy for you to stand out.
But I suppose so. I mean, it's probably never been the one that everybody wants to be the tour coach. Everybody wants to have TrackMan and 3D and all the gizmos and gadgets, and it never really. That stuff sort of for a long time has never really appealed to me. It's always, the interactions with children, the setting up of the activities, the setting up of the games. I suppose I've gone more towards being a kindergarten reception school teacher than I have a sixth form college professor. And there's a lot of people in between. But surely someone's got to stand up and put their hand up and say, "Come on, we need to do a better job." And if that ends up being me and my colleagues, Junior Golf Alliance, and then the people that find us, then hopefully we'll make more impact. We'll give more children the opportunity to play the game.
I was quite, well, maybe not surprised, but I also think that on the Facebook group, like you talked about egos, like people are, or at least they seem to be very open about what they do and how they do it and sharing ideas. Like I know in golf, it's not always the case. If you look at some of the coaching groups, this is a nice example of how it can be done with the coaches actually working together.
And I suppose like finds like, don't they? I think like people find people that are like themselves or have a common interest, and hopefully, with what we've done, I'm always keen that when it comes to talking about golf and children and what we're doing, it always has to be about the experience of the child. Now, whether that child has got lots of experience and has a high skill level, and from your terms or the terms that you're using is a performance player, or whether it's a child that's got no experience and no skill level, participation, they're all just there coming and having an experience. And it's for us as coaches or adults who are influencing what they do to say, well, how might I have an impact with that? And I suppose the best impact we can sometimes have is do nothing. Choose to do nothing. Keep out of their way. Got a number of children who are doing all right, and the conversations I have with dads is, do you know what? We might be just best keeping out of their way for a little while. Setting up games, setting up activities that we know are going to help, but just let them find their own way.
Do you ever coach, let's say, technique, or it's a very general term? But
it depends on how you define the term technique.
How would you define it?
How would I define it? So I would define it as it's flight, strike, movement, and technique is skill, technique, mechanics. So skill is can you do what you're trying to do relative to the task in the environment? Technique is what's the club and the ball doing to achieve that task? And mechanics are what's under the bonnet, how are you moving relative to the club and the body. So I don't suppose I'm not a mechanic, but I'm definitely a driving instructor. I'm definitely pointing people towards how to use the implement to move the ball relative to the task. So for me, technique is always what's the implement got to do to the object to achieve the task. Whereas I think too many people within golf and sport in general, they're mechanics. They're opening the bonnet up, they're taking it apart, they're putting it back together. So it's always an interesting discussion. Well, what's your definition of technique? And within a room of 10 coaches, you might get 10 different explanations. But I suppose I've moved away from technique being grip, aim, stance, ball position, posture, and me directively telling people those sort of things.
Would that be one of the main sins that coaches the coaches do, or let's say participation coaches on that continuum? Would you say that's the opening the trunk and...
People don't always know any different, do they?
Yeah.
And they feel like they're doing, we've seen a lot of guys who have connected with the person in front of them and have delivered sessions and that's their way. And often because that's the way they've experienced. So therefore, I'm going to deliver a session that's very much similar to what I've experienced in the past. I've seen that a lot in other sports as well. Cricket's one that I've seen the last 12 months or so, and it would seem that people deliver sessions that are very similar to the sessions they've had or have had in the past or are delivering still to other people, rather than saying what's the most appropriate experience for this person in front of me. And I also think, golf tends to get taught on driving ranges. And, if you're on the flat mat to a big field, I think we've become, as coaches, byproducts of our environment. So, lesson 1, you can explore what the club face is doing, where you're hitting it, doing different things. But once you maybe get to lesson 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, can you keep doing that? So I wonder whether, as coaches, we become byproducts of our environment. We end up having to look under the trunk because the environment doesn't allow us to do anything else.
Interesting.
I just think if you look at skill, technique, mechanics, it's quite a nice. I sort of use it as a triangle. Flight, strike, movement is what we're looking at. What's the ball doing? What's the club and the ball doing? What's the club and the body doing? And then if you drill down a bit further into that, skill, technique, and mechanics, everything interacts. It's never one thing. Everything interacts within that complex environment of the golf course. The reason because we've always in our workshops. I think it was the same when you came to that workshop, that people always say, so when do you teach grip? Like, well, I'm quite flippant. Sometimes I might never. Might not need to. If you do a good job, I might not need to. Well, I have to teach it first lesson. That's fine. I don't know you, and I don't know, not you, but the person, I don't know what you're going to teach, but I'm just saying I might never. And we might have kids that grip it left and below right and hit it like this, and they're fine. And we have that conversation with coaches. Because when are they going to grip it properly? Well, let's see. What's properly?
That's an interesting point, actually. We've talked about it a little bit, but how would you take that conversation further, with the parents? So you get parents that are normally, most of them, not most of them, but a lot of them are playing golfers, and they see the kid doing some funky movements or, like you said, funky grip, and how would you, let's say, calm down the parent in a way? I
suppose again, what do we want children to do? We want them to create speed, and we want them to move, and we also want them to control speed. But let's say it's a new golfer just getting started, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. We want them to move as much as they can and as fast as they can, and they're going to find lots and lots of different ways to do that. The club might be the right length, it might be the right weight, it might not be. So I suppose what I say to parents is, we don't want to tell them anything that restricts their ability to create speed and move. And so by changing the hands around, the one I don't like is keep your feet still. Often parents, and even some coaches with her, keep your feet still. I don't want them to keep their feet still. If you want to move them, we had one yesterday, a girl, she sort of twizzles round. Dad said, why does she twizzle round? I'm like, well, club's probably a bit long and a bit heavy for her at the moment, and the speed that she's trying to create to send that ball as far as she can't hold herself. Oh yeah, not thought about it like that. And I said, if we tell her to keep still, she won't create the speed. She might not hit it. She won't hit it anywhere. So she might miss 5. But the one that she pops, she'll be smiling, Dad will be smiling. Let's just encourage her to do that. But it's a conversation you can't have if you base all of your ideas on gripping it correctly, standing correctly, swinging correctly. You can see how that they're too opposed.
Would that be the same with adults?
For me, yeah. The thing is, it's still object and implement. It's still strike, flight, movement. It's still skill, technique, mechanics. I wouldn't seldom start with the mechanics side of it. I would always start with the movement. Let's get you moving as far and as fast as we can.
So what would the first hour of coaching would look like for you if you had a complete beginner come to you, and what would you do with them for the first hour, let's say?
For a child or an adult?
An adult.
Or both?
Oh, both actually.
Let's say in an ideal world, we just go and play a few holes. And let's say it was the ideal session, everything was perfect. So we'd walk down the first and we'd have our natter as we went. We'd put a few on the first hole. We'd then walk down the second, so they're getting a bit of a sense for the environment. We'd then chip a few onto it, we'd put a few. We'd then walk down the third and we'd play from a little bit further away. And then we'd walk down the fourth and we might play the whole hole. So they've been introduced to the golf course, they've been introduced to the different skills, they've been introduced to a putter, a sand iron, a 7-iron, a wood of some sort, and then we'd walk away. And then next week we might do the same. I might say to them, is there anything that you weren't so confident with that we might spend a little bit more time doing? Or the next week we might do that as an off-course experience. So an off-course experience we might be put a few, chip a few, hit a few bunker shots, hit a few on the range. Because at the end of 2 or 3 sessions with a beginner, what I think we want to be able to do is provide them with the opportunity to choose to come and have an off-course experience, put in, chip in range, or go and have an on-course experience. We want to arm them with the confidence and the enthusiasm to want to go and do that. So if it was an adult, they can obviously choose to do that on their own. If it's a child, we obviously then educate the adults on how they can best support that experience. Because the skills of hitting it and playing golf and doing it better, they come the more you do it. But I don't know why we would teach the skills, the right grip, stance, ball position, posture first, because they are then, for me anyway, my experience is a lot less likely to go and play on the golf course. At the end of 2 or 3 sessions, even one session, let's say it goes really well. At the end of one session, I want that person to think, God, I'd love to go and do it. And I'm going to go and do it. I might pick a quieter time. I might go when there's no one else out there. But I feel like I can go and do that. So we've enthused them to say, I can go and play. Because you look at probably what goes on, it's probably not enthusing people to go and play. The traditional, if we say, and I've done the 6 lessons, finish with the on-course session. Start with the grip, start with the swing, then do some putting, then do some chipping, and then finish with the on-course session. What I realised is that I wasn't giving many 6th lessons on course because people had stopped by then.
Would you use normal equipment on the course during the first session, or like normal balls and clubs? And
yeah. I mean, at the beginner, we do driver, we do hybrid, we do 7-iron, we do sand iron, we do putter, we do 5 clubs. I want them to realise that clubs are different lengths, clubs are different lofts, and they can potentially do different things.
What about the skill problems? If you have someone that's really, I guess you can always start them shorter to the hole, but like we've all seen new players that during the first contact with golf, they struggle to even make the contact with the ball. Would you not say that at times this could be sort of, I'm just asking like difficult questions in a way, demotivating for them to go out on the course and fail in a way?
On occasions it has been, but then you make a very swift exit sort of off, or you change the scenario. But what I've found is that by changing the different areas that you play from, even masking success as making contact with it and sending it, it's a good start. And then you might say, you know what, our next session, let's go and spend a bit of time off the course on the range. Let's get you hitting it, and we'll do that easy. And there's occasionally, 1 in 10, 1 in 20 people, they don't have any ability to move. So then you've got to just encourage them to move as much as they can, and it can be tricky. But that's the fun of the game, isn't it? That's the fun of being able to help people and supporting them. So it's probably, has it failed? I wouldn't say failed. It's not. It's affected maybe people's confidence a couple of times. But then the flip side of that is it's then enthused a lot more people to go and play.
What about kids? Like, would you do the same if you had a brand new kid for the first time?
Yeah, if I could, I think tends to be, say for instance, new player, 1 of 2 sessions, dependent on access to course and weather. You've got an off-course experience, which is putting a few, chipping a few, whacking a few, which can take 20 minutes, it can take an hour, depending on how much you do and what you do. Or it can be an on-course experience where it is putting a few, chipping a few, whacking a few. So if you've got an off-course experience and an on-course experience, off-course, you then say to people, you now know what you can do on your own because you know what to do as far as the environment's concerned. On-course, you can choose to come and do this if you so wish. Again, you talk to them about playing from shorter places, playing briskly, playing safely. So we tend to do that off-course or on-course with children, with adults, and what's been amazing over the last 18 months with families. You get families together, and if you sort of coach them on how to have a positive off-course experience using the putting green, using the driving range, and then also how to have a positive experience on the golf course as well, it can be magical.
You'd normally get a mix of abilities, wouldn't you, and experiences, like a brand new one. Yeah.
Recently, Dad plays regularly, 12 handicap, he can hit it nice. Mum had never done it. Daughter was 8, quite sporty, really wanted to do it. Brother was 4. And, as a coach, just trying to manage all of their experiences, and they had a great time. Dad was pleased because he never thought that he could go out and play with the whole family. He hit a few, he didn't hit loads. Mum was really keen. She wanted to do something with the whole family. She also wanted to do golf for herself. Daughter loved it. Difficult just to fit it in with her busy life. Little lad just loved running around in the big open spaces. And we played 3 holes, stopped after 3, walked back. They had a hot chocolate. They've had a nice hour and 20-minute experience that they could do again and again and again. And at the start of it, Dad said, I'm not really sure how you're going to do this. Like, do not worry, we'll be okay.
Let me ask you a couple of questions about golf in general. What would you say is the biggest problem right now for golf, and maybe through the lens of golf coaches? What could we all do better, and how could that make golf better going forward? Because as we know, the numbers are not looking great worldwide. How do you think we can improve that in a way?
Facilitate play. Pretty simple. I just wonder, as an industry, we've obviously provided people with lots of learning experiences, get them better at it, but I don't think we've probably done a very good job of facilitating play. So you look at a football coach of a child's of an adult's team, playing a game is the most important part of the week. And then obviously they have training as a secondary. Whereas for us, we train, coach, and seldom or less likely do people go and play. So I just wonder whether we've got to facilitate opportunities to play, provide opportunities to play. And I got this thing this last few weeks, been working on a few little different projects, and I just get this impression that everybody wants people to start and then work towards getting good. And I've got it in my mind that I'm going to stop trying to give people the opportunity to get good and then just provide lots of opportunities to be normal and ordinary. Because actually, there's probably a lot more people that want to be ordinary and normal than there are that people that want to be good. And the people that want to be good will progress from that sort of pile of people that are just ordinary. And again, I might get shot down in flames and sort of say, we've got to get people better and we've got to keep pushing people forwards. But my daughter goes to cricket and she just loves doing it. Does she want to be any better? Yeah, but she just loves doing it. And I think as coaches, if we can just give people the opportunity just to love doing it, they'll come to us and ask to get better or get good, or it'll be on themselves to get better and get good. So it's a good question, and it might be one that I might have a different answer to tomorrow or next week. But as I say it today, I just wonder if it's facilitating play.
And then probably we as coaches are in the best position to actually do that, because we are normally the first point of contact with.
Yeah, we're the first people they meet when they come through the door. And, what do you want? What can we offer you? It maybe not be membership. It might be just the on-course experience. It might be just hitting a few putts on the green. It could be anything. And maybe it's unstructured play. It's just going and doing it for the sake of doing it. There's not even a competition it's just unstructured play. There's not enough of that.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about here in Poland. It seems like I'm not sure about the UK actually, but I think it's similar. Like everything that the golf clubs are offering, it's aimed at say tournament players. So there's not much going on for those that just want to play. And I know in the UK I've seen a few stats that like 75% of golfers are just social players and don't play in competitions. And catering for them is like, it's not only a huge business opportunity, but also it would be nice if we could help them do what they want to do.
I think the industry again went to a meeting last Monday, and they talked about how do we get more members. And junior membership's down. We haven't got any members, and if they are members, they don't want to play. And do we give it away free? Because the money involved for a child, say, to become a member of a golf club, it's great value. It's no money at all, really. And so I sort of sit there thinking, well, we're obviously selling a product that people don't want to buy. So maybe there's something wrong with the product. So maybe it's not membership that people want. And then between myself and my colleague, we sort of said, well, what could it be that people want? Well, from our experience, it's just engaging experiences. Now, that might be an hour golf a week. It might be coming and putting for half an hour. It might be going and playing an 18-hole medal tournament. Could be anything. And so we then look at our group of children and families that we've got and say, well, what are the engaging experiences that they want? Now, can we provide all to everybody? No, but let's say that you group half a dozen of them, a dozen of them, and you start to do that. Well, there's then the facilitating of play.
So last question, really. Are there any coaches, let's say in the participation area of coaching, or any good beginner coaches or junior coaches that you know of?
It's an interesting, isn't it? Off the top of my head, I don't think there would be a list of names, because I think those guys, what is a good participation coach? What is a big coach of beginners? What are they doing? Is it because they're getting lots of numbers coming through the door? Maybe it's just somebody that enthuses people to play. And if we can come across people, and like we said with, say, for instance, the Junior Golf Alliance, like will find like. And if coming back to your project, maybe it's not a case of asking people what they want. It's maybe just, sharing your experiences, sharing the experiences of people that you know and you connect with, and like will start to find like. And then we work on a sort of policy, a marketing with children that will start with one. So, like you said, if I'm the first person to do one of these interviews, well, that's just me and you, and then me and you'll find another, and then there'll be another, and then you got four, and then you got 8, and then suddenly you've got a group of people. There's probably always going to have to be somebody, you, driving it, at the heart of it, because it's something close to your heart. But like will find like, and if you look at some of the work, is it Simon Sinek and Daniel Pink, and they say, like will find like, they'll find each other, and that's how a gathering starts. There's nobody who I would, not because I wouldn't share the name, but it's just people that enthuse others to play. And there might be a list. There might be a list out there. You might start compiling a list. It'd be interesting to see what those people look like.
Yeah.
But it's the sort of gratiendo, isn't it? If you like, it's going into schools and going into community and doing the things that traditionally haven't been either well paid or well thought of and doing those projects. But they're the ones that are going to make the impact within the game, I think, more so than, somebody who's coaching on tour. And do we get inspired by golf role models? I mean, again, there's another. I'm not so sure. Has Justin Rose winning a gold medal at the Olympics, has he inspired anybody to play?
It's a great question.
He may well have inspired some people that already play to play more, but I can't think for 1 second he's inspired. No, that's wrong to say because I don't know, but part of me thinks that I'm not sure he's inspired anybody who doesn't play to play. I might be wrong.
Okay, so where would you guide people if they want to learn more about you, the Junior Golf Alliance, social networks? Where can people find you?
Well, they can ring me, they can email me. They can Skype me. I'm always happy because I always find this it's extremely valuable. Talking to like minds and sharing things. So Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. I will. Within, I think, where we are now, you have to communicate in lots and lots of different ways. So whether it's a direct message, whether it's a messenger, whether it's a text, whether it's an email. If people want to talk, I'm always happy to talk and share. But as far as Junior Golf Alliance is concerned, they can log on to the website, juniorgolfalliance.co.uk. They can join. It's £50 a year. And as you said, they get access to the web pages, they get access to the Facebook page, they get access to the online e-learning. So there's a free course which they get access to and be part of a community.
I would recommend anyone interested in junior golf to join. Really, I think it's a great project, and hopefully it will grow and expand quickly.
We hope so.
Yeah. Okay, anything that I haven't asked you that you think I should have asked you, maybe?
No, I hope I haven't prattled on for long and people have been disinterested by it, but it's been an interesting one. I think maybe the question you asked about what do we as coaches need to do, I think as if we were to all reflect on that question, what can we do to get more people through the door, keep people coming, and then what do we do next? So if you've got a sort of, how do you recruit them? How do you retain them? And then what do you do to grow those people? If we're able to sit down and answer that and put a plan in place and work towards that, I think we'd all be doing a fine job. And whether that be participation or performance, like I say, I do wrestle with the two terms really, because one tends to be exclusive of the other and they tend to sort of work away from each other. Well, I'm not so sure. It
could be like the strategies, they could be different in different places, right? In different venues, different like it's all about the context like you're in.
And not only the context you're in and the people that are in front of you.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. All the very best with this project, Floyd.
Thank you.
Top man.
Thank you for listening. As I said, let me know what you thought. Comment on the website, ParticipationCoaching.com. Over there you can also sign up for the newsletter if you want to get notified of future episodes. You can leave your email there, or you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. But this way you'll miss some articles that I'm planning to put out in the future. So thanks for listening. Let me know what you thought. Bye bye.